Ike is a magician in the demon army who has demonstrated such incredible power and talent that he has been elevated to commander. In the war-torn regions in this realm, he commands his warriors on the battlefield while strategizing how to knock down the formidable fort of Arsenum. Humans and monsters slaughter each other by the hundreds on the battlefield, vying for mastery over the other race, while Ike stands on a rock and observes the carnage. After a protracted battle, they finally smash through the castle's main gate and enter. But the humans do not back down, fighting fiercely and sacrificing their lives to protect their stronghold. The Lord Commander of the humans observes the action from his windows, secure within the castle, when Ike suddenly decides to pay him a visit since he does not want to lose so many lives. The commander turns around and appears to know Ike right away, since his stories are widely circulated. Ike admits that he is the leader of the 7th Legion of the Demon King Army, also known as the Immortal Brigade. He continues to offer the commander 3 potential alternatives. He informs the commander that he may surrender peacefully and become a prisoner of war. He can commit suicide to defend his honor, or if he lacks respect, he can just climb out the window and flee. The commander smirks at him before declaring that he will not accept any of the possibilities presented by a traitor to his own people. He rushes forward with his sword to strike, but it is ineffective, as Ike knocks him out cold on the floor with a single sweep of his wand. Piggy, his personal assistant, enters unexpectedly and inquires as to what should be done with the prisoners of war. Ike turns around and orders him to cure the commander as well as anybody who surrenders without a struggle, startling Piggy and a suspiciously gorgeous woman who watches him via a crystal ball and appears impressed by his ability to conquer such an important fortress with a single brigade. After that, Ike creates a magical barrier over the entire place, preventing anybody from entering the battlefield, while looking outside to witness the demons treating innumerable human losses and injuries. He feels horrible about witnessing these horrors and has never liked the way war works. But he has no option but to battle indefinitely, something he is unaccustomed to because he is a human disguised as a demon. He was abandoned at birth, but a demon wizard named Romberg decided to take him in on a whim. Romberg was an incredible magician and instructor who frequently spoke about a period when humans and demons could coexist. Romberg taught him everything he knew about magic, and before dying, he summoned him to his chamber and instructed him to always wear the mask and the robe. As if the Demon King discovers that he is not a demon, he will be tortured and executed instantly. Ike sits down in the chair to rest after placing a magical field around the area to prevent anybody from entering without his permission, but he spots a scared maid beneath the table, who instantly begins apologizing and sobbing, saying she didn't see anything. She ends up striking her head on the table and passing out as Ike wonders how to cope with the situation. He chooses to think about it later, while Piggy invites him outside and they walk through the streets, viewing the devastation created by the war. The Piggy questions why Ike spares so many humans. Ike curtly responds that the current Demon King is only concerned with the outcomes, not how they are achieved. However, Piggy states that many demons believe Ike is too kind with humans and that it would be better if they slaughtered all of the citizens and set fire to the streets. Ike refuses to do anything like this, telling Piggy that people must pay taxes because war is expensive. Furthermore, Arsenum is a commerce city and humans are required to maintain it. The huge Piggy appears to be confused as Ike comes to a halt as a group of humans approaches. Piggy instantly cautions them and tells them to piss off, but Ike instructs them to say anything they want. One of the locals inquires as to how much more tax they will be required to pay to the demon army, to their astonishment. Ike informs them that taxes will remain the same as before, which makes them delighted. However, he cautions them that if they attempt to defy the soldiers, they would be punished. While he was saying this, he vanished in a dazzling light, shocking Piggy. Ike is horrified when he finds himself in a dark dungeon and is quickly assaulted by a gigantic monster. He dodges the punch and flees, swearing at the unknown woman that she shouldn't have called him in like this. The demon continues to assault him, so he produces a wand from his ass and executes a specific magic strike to defeat it. Immediately, the lady appears alongside him and swears that she last saw him as a child hiding behind Romberg. She states that the golem was also fairly powerful, implying that Ike has become even stronger. Sapphire was Ike's supervisor and the only demon that is aware of his secret. He warns her not to call him like this, but she insists that it is more fun that way. He asks whether he's come to report on the war effort, but she declines, stating she witnessed everything and that his execution was immaculate. She ultimately admits that the Demon King wished to meet him once. This surprises him because a Demon King does not need to meet with a brigade leader. He inquires about the capture, but Sapphire responds that the Demon King may only be interested in how he took Arsenum in a week. She instructs him to prepare and then teleports them to the Demon King's fortress. This is his first time seeing the castle, and he is surprised by its size. They approach towards the main entrance, which is guarded by a horde of demons, and Ike asks Sapphire if he will be examined before entering. Sapphira responds that the Demon King is the most important person in their realm, and of course the guards inspect everyone. This makes Ike worried since he cannot let his identity be known, but she assures him not to worry. Surprisingly, as soon as the guards see him, they are overcome by his magical aura and quickly step aside, claiming that they expected nothing less from the grandson of the legendary magician Romberg. They both enter the corridor and begin walking, with Sapphira flying beside him. He considers how, despite knowing how to fly, he is not quite as skilled as her. They finally arrive at the courthouse, where Sapphira instructs him to wait since she will enter first and summon him. While she is gone, he considers how the current Demon King, Darrow, is renowned to be both skilled and vicious. According to him, humanity were winning the fight until the current Demon King altered everything in one battle. He is known to be merciless to unskilled individuals, but he also rewards anybody who demonstrates brilliance and competency, regardless of whether they are from a well-known demon nobility or an ordinary person. Ike had been longing to see him for a long time, and he is ready to say something to him when Sapphira interrupts his thoughts and beckons him inside. He approaches the courtroom with his head lowered, but the biggest shock of his life comes when he puts his head up to find a female seated on the throne. Like any other sexist, he assumes she is the Demon King's daughter, but he quickly sees his mistake and bends down to her. She looks at him and says it is astonishing that he was able to take Arsenum in just a week. Ike instantly bows down, claiming that he was only obeying Sapphira's orders. Darrow observes this right away and notes on how he responds just like a person would. Ike recognizes he needs to tone down his humility, but happily, Sapphira comes to his rescue and informs Darrow that Ike is Romberg's grandson. Darrow grins, indicating that she understands where Ike gets his war tactics, but she continues to question why he is so focused on ensuring that none of the humans die until absolutely necessary. He quickly becomes concerned, thinking that he should have executed a few of them, but realizes that he cannot do it to an innocent person. He chooses to speak out, telling her that people are scared of demons, but fear does not breed loyalty or efficiency. He says that regardless of who governs the region, folks would follow someone who is competent and can assist them improve their circumstances. The Demon King is pleased, and she instantly teleports in front of him, declaring that he is truly unique among demons and expressing her want to see the true face behind that mask before departing the court. Ike quickly falls to the ground, afraid, and breathes a sigh of relief, telling Sapphira that terrible things are bad for his heart. Sapphira advises him to cheer up since death has decided to reward him, and he is meant to rule over the city of Arsenum. He instantly teleports back to the castle in Arsenum, where he discovers the maid sleeping on his chair, but she quickly rises and begins apologizing. He assures her not to worry since he would not injure her and asks for her name. She calls herself 13 and says that all slaves are assigned numbers rather than names. She states that her true name was Sadi before she became a slave, so Ike chooses to call her by that name solely. He informs her that she has already seen his actual identity, hence he cannot let her go. When she hears this, she rushes on him and begins weeping, but he begs her to calm down since he is not going to murder her. He informs her that she would be his personal maid from now on, and she quickly accepts. Later that day, he walks out to assess the damage to the city and knows that they must repair the fortifications, since if the humans decide to strike, the city will fall instantly. He asks Piggy how long it will take to rebuild the defenses, and Piggy responds that if they utilize solely human labor, it should take 6 months. Ike realizes it's too long, and to Piggy's astonishment, informs him that they have 1 month to complete the task. Piggy believes that it is impossible, but Ike devises a strategy in which humans and demons collaborate. Piggy has never seen anything like this before, and he understands he is actually following a genius. Ike schedules shifts so that the job may be completed 24 hours a day, and the employees are even rewarded for their efforts, which encourages them to accomplish more. Piggy understands he is actually following a mastermind as he begins to shed tears of pleasure and considers how everyone would benefit if Ike became the new Demon King. It was nighttime when the demon army marched towards Rosaria's defenses. The Rosaria army greeted them with a rain of fire, but the demon army was so strong that they covered themselves with large stones and moved forward. The demon army managed to create a huge hole in the defense wall, creating a passage to enter the city. The demon army swarmed into the city. Hand-to-hand combat occurred between the Rosaria army and the demon army. Even with the help of human magicians, the Rosaria army couldn't hold their positions. The demon army defeated the Rosaria defense forces and took over the city. The demon lord was sitting on her throne when she received a report that the war in Rosaria was going well. She was informed of a rumor that the human army was forming an alliance to turn the tide of the war. She acknowledged this rumor, already knowing that humans come together in the face of danger. With a grin on her face, she decided to leave the task of handling this potential alliance to Ake, the demon army's 8th Corps commander. It was daytime when Ake was working at his desk. He wore his mask when Sadie, his maid, brought him refreshments. She placed the teacup on the desk slowly and asked if he was tired. She smiled when she learned that her master was fine. Ake looked deeply at Sadie when she smiled. On the other side, Alistair, the White Rose Knight's commander, had arrived. She walked in with her helmet in her hand, ready to report. The Rosaria general ensured that Alistair knew the reason she had been summoned. She already grasped the situation and understood that she had been summoned to retake Avalias. The general confirmed the order. Then she walked out with a helmet on her head. In the middle of the city, a bookmaker had set up 3 cups on a table. He was inviting people to gather around while explaining his game. The rules were simple. Point to the cup where the ball ends up, and the bookmaker will double your money. As he explained, he slid a small red ball under one of the cups, then quickly twisted the cups around, adding an air of mystery. Sadie appeared and sat in front of the bookmaker. She pointed to the cup in the center. When asked how much she would bet, she gawked because she didn't have any money. At first, the bookmaker was annoyed by her. Then he looked at her more closely, a pink-haired girl in a maid dress with oversized breasts. He couldn't deny that he wanted something from her. With a big sweat on his sleek face, he allowed her to bet. As he was about to open the cup she had bet on, suddenly the cups flew around him. He was shocked by the commotion. Sadie, with a straight face, pointed out that there was no red ball under any of the cups. The bookmaker panicked, caught red-handed cheating by the people around him. Sadie kept her straight face as the bookmaker was beaten up. Then she was dragged away by Ake. Ake scolded her, saying she should not abandon her master. Sadie apologized, explaining that there were so many new things for her that she couldn't help herself. She wondered why Ake was wearing common human clothes. He explained that they were both scouting the human army, so he couldn't wear his usual demon outfit because it would attract attention. As they walked together, they bought oranges and ate them while walking. On the street, they passed by the human army marching. This strengthened the presumption of the human army alliance. However, Ake felt something was off. The human army looked rushed. Sadie wondered as Ake mentioned the Alliance of Kings. Ake explained that it was an ancient alliance, where countries joined forces in times of danger, regardless of their own interests. Sadie took Ake's explanation with her own point of view. According to her understanding, when the demons attack, humans need to work together to fight them off. Ake confirmed and added that the alliance had been formed 3 times, and each time they managed to defeat the demon army and push them back to Dauberberg Castle. Ake assured Sadie that whether it happened again this time or not, there would be nothing to worry about. Ake thought that since Sadie was human, if the humans won the fight, Sadie would be free. But Sadie had her own perspective. In human society, the child of a slave remains a slave forever. She thought that if the demon army was defeated and Ake abandoned her, she would end up being a slave, pointing to an iron-barred carriage transporting a group of slave children. Ake reassured her once again, saying that demons and humans could have their own problems, but they just needed to do something to change that. As they continued walking, the bookmaker, who had been exposed as a cheat, called to them from a distance. This time, the bookmaker had brought a gigantic figure, a watchman, by his side. There were bruises on the bookmaker's face. He demanded money and Sadie as payment for his loss. Ake looked around, making sure nobody was nearby. Once he was certain, he took out a part of his magic staff. A light shone from his staff, and the bookmaker's watchman found his legs frozen to the ground. Ake chanted his spell, Ice Spear, and many sharp ice shards emerged around both the bookmaker and his watchman. The bookmaker, shocked and fearful, noticed that the tips of the ice shards were pointed at him. Ake walked slowly toward the bookmaker. As he got close, Ake asked about the army in the town that seemed to be in a hurry. Instead of answering the question, the bookmaker begged Ake to get rid of the ice shards. Ake remained silent as the bookmaker babbled until an ice shard stabbed his shoulder. The bookmaker apologized but still didn't want to give any information. Ake bluffed, saying there was no point in holding back, and the bookmaker changed his mind. The bookmaker told Ake that they had formed the Alliance of Kings to fight the demons, and Rosaria's army was eager to make a move before the alliance did. Ake could tell that what the bookmaker said was somehow connected to Rosaria's army's rushed movement. It was a plausible strategy. If they could win before the alliance fully formed, it would give them an advantage during strategic councils and increase their influence after the war. But if they lost, it would put Rosaria in a desperate position. After asking for the attack location, the bookmaker said there was only one plausible place, Avalias, which had a messy gate and poor defenses. After getting all the information, both Ake and Sadie left. Ake returned to his office, working at his desk, accompanied by Sadie. Suddenly, Lilith opened his office door and rushed toward him. She had been worried because she couldn't find him anywhere. Ake explained that he had been scouting and had managed to gather important information. She wasn't interested in that. Instead, she wanted to know who the girl standing beside him was. Ake introduced Sadie to Lilith. Sadie politely introduced herself. Lilith told Ik to forget about Sadie, calling her an ugly girl, and suggested he take her Lilith as his maid instead. Sadie, slightly annoyed by Lilith's behavior, politely asked Lilith to move away by telling her that her master needed some rest. Lilith accused Sadie of seducing Ik. Sadie mocked Lilith politely, saying there was no way an ugly girl like her could seduce Ik. This sparked an argument between them that Ik couldn't stop. They were still arguing when Jiron showed up at the office door. On the other side, the White Rose Knights had arrived near Avalia's. As they prepared for the attack, they found it eerily quiet with no guards in sight. Just as they were ready to fire the cannon, a horde of skeleton soldiers emerged from the ground near them. The White Rose Knights remained confident in their ability to fend off the skeleton army and moved to protect the siege engineers. Suddenly, an arrow pierced one of the White Rose Knights in the chest. A group of demon archers had attacked them from the top of the hills. Amid the chaos, stronger demon soldiers appeared and attacked the White Rose Knights' troops. The White Rose Knights got dispersed, unable to hold the sudden attack, and the commander ordered her troops to retreat. Ik and Jiren watched the White Rose Knights retreat from the top of the defense wall. Jiren praised Ik for being able to predict the attack thanks to his scouting. As they had a short conversation, a sharpshooter shot an arrow at Ik, hitting him in the back. Ik fell down. Ik awoke in his bed with bandages on his body, his mask, and an arrow placed on the bedside table. Sapphira was snoring next to him. He was still in shock when Sapphira woke up. Sapphira had been taking care of Ik after he lost consciousness from the arrow wound in his back. She warned Ik that in the last fight, there were no human casualties, which was unusual for the demon army. Known for slaughtering their enemies, this could make the demon lord suspicious. Ik reasoned that he was just trying to find a way for humans and demons to live together. As Sapphira took her leave, he picked up the arrow, wondering who was involved and how the sharpshooter had managed to hit him in the back. He put on his mask as he heard the door opening. Lilith stormed in, followed by Sadie. They were both worried about Ik, but quickly started arguing again. Then Jiren stepped in and threw Lilith out of the room. Lilith became angry as Jiren shut the door with her outside. Jiren sweated nervously as she banged on the door, calling him ugly. He had another bead of sweat on his face when Sadie gave him a thumbs up and called him Mr. Ugly. Ik reassured Jiren that he wasn't that ugly and ordered him to find out where the commander of the White Rose Knights was. Both of them were sweating as Lilith whined harsher and banged on the door harder. It was daytime at the human prison where Alistair, the commander of the White Rose Knights, was imprisoned for her failed attack on Avalia's. Ik was alone in a forest not far from the prison. He heard Lilith's voice behind him as he looked toward the prison. Lilith tried to scare Ik, warning him about being alone in human territory. Ik explained to Lilith that he wanted to ask the White Rose Knights commander something in person, and that he had never asked Lilith to come with him. Lilith insisted on coming along and came up with many reasons to justify her presence. Ik had nothing to argue with and reluctantly allowed her to follow him. As they approached the gate, they saw only 2 guards on duty. Lilith remarked that it would be easy for her to take them down. Ik objected to Lilith's approach, wanting to infiltrate the prison as silently and quickly as possible. But it was too late. Lilith had already taken down both guards, claiming she did it quietly. They proceeded inside. The prison was large, and it would take some time to search for the commander's cell. However, Lilith quickly took care of that by beating up one of the prison guards and getting the cell location and the key. A group of prison guards then showed up to catch them. Lilith told Ik to carry on by himself while she handled the guards. Ik went to the top floor, unlocked the cell door, and found nobody inside. As he entered the cell, Alistair attempted to attack him from behind. Ik easily dodged her attack, but she didn't stop and continued attacking with her knife. Ik took out his magic staff and subdued Alistair. He asked her if she had sent the assassin to kill him. Alistair didn't answer his question. Instead, she looked at him in surprise, doubting that he was really a demon. Just then, the prison guards rushed to the top floor. As Ik's attention turned to them, Alistair's knife was already at his neck. At the prison's top floor, Ik stood with Alistair, the former commander of the White Rose Knights. Alistair had been arrested for her failure to capture Avalia's. Ik intended to question her about a suspected assassination attempt, but before he could proceed, Alistair swiftly placed a knife to his neck. The sound of approaching prison guards grew louder, heightening the tension. Alistair sensed something peculiar about Ik's demeanor, suspecting he might be human rather than demon. As the guards closed in, shouting about intruders and giving rapid instructions to capture the demon, the situation became increasingly precarious. Alistair demanded to know if Ik was human. Ik remained silent. With the guards nearly upon them, Alistair held her ground, knife still at Ik's throat. As the guards reached them, they shouted commands to capture the demon. Alistair told Ik to not move. Ik complied. He didn't, but he cast a spell that affected both Alistair and the guards, causing them to stop in their movement. Alistair, bewildered, questioned what was happening, sensing that time itself had seemed to halt. Ake explained that he had dulled their senses and instructed them to remain still. With another spell, he conjured a strong wind that flung the guards away, effectively neutralizing the immediate threat. Suddenly, a gigantic guard attacked Ake with a war hammer. Ake responded with another spell, causing the floor beneath the giant to crumble. The guard plummeted toward the base floor, but was gently stopped by another of Ake's spells before reaching the ground safely. This act left Alistair puzzled about Ake's motives. In the midst of confusion, the floor below Alistair was crumbling. Alistair couldn't move his body. She fell along with the debris. As she tried to grab anything to hold on, she saw Ake flying so fast towards her. Ake managed to catch her before she hit the base floor. Alistair jumps in shock knowing that she is just being saved by Ake. Alistair could tell that Ake really didn't behave like a demon usually did. This made her suspicion that Ake is a human grow more. Ake introduced himself as the commander of the Demon Lord's 7th Army Corps. Alistair gasped at his introduction. She had failed to capture Avalias because the demon army, led by Ake, had overwhelmed her forces with their power. The same army that had defended Avalias was now led by the demon standing before her. Ake questioned Alistair about whether she had sent an assassin to kill him during the battle. Despite losing her footing, Alistair, the former commander of the White Rose Knights, retained her dignity and loyalty. She refused to answer Ake's question. As Ake moved closer, Alistair gasped, wondering what he might do to her. She backed into the wall behind her as Ake stood directly in front of her, his eyes glowing purple as he cast a mind-reading spell. Alistair trembled, uncertain of what was happening. Suddenly, Lilith, Ake's subordinate, appeared and accused him of flirting with Alistair. Ignoring Lilith's accusations, Ake continued reading Alistair's mind. Even as he finished and prepared to leave, Lilith continued to nag him. Alistair, confused by Ake's departure, asked if he had come to mock her after her defeat. Ake denied this and informed her that she had nothing to do with the assassination attempt. He advised her not to be too hard on herself. As he left, Alistair remained puzzled by his words. Lilith followed Ake, still nagging him. She wanted to go somewhere with him before they returned home, but Ake didn't listen. He opened a portal and stepped through, leaving Lilith to follow. Back in his office, Ake removed his mask, greeted by his maid, Sadie, who was waiting for him. He handed her a present, a bag of rice he had found in the capital city of Lazas. Sadie, curious about the small white grains, listened as Ake explained there was a type of food called rice. Ake elaborated on his plan to double the taxes collected from the city. He pointed out that Avalias, an agricultural city with fertile soil, primarily grew wheat. However, rice was far more productive. Sadie struggled to grasp the concept, so Ake broke it down further, explaining that more productive crops like rice would reduce the need for so many farmers. This shift would allow more people to engage in other crafts, such as making weapons or bricks, and provide services like cooking, which would in turn contribute to the country's wealth. Sadie was overwhelmed by the complexity of the explanation. Sensing her confusion, Ake reassured her and simplified his message. Growing more rice would lead to more food and increased tax revenue. Impressed by his intelligence, Sadie expressed her admiration. Ake then tasked Sadie with cooking the rice. Admitting that he had never cooked it himself, he offered the only advice he knew. First low, then high, don't remove the lid even if the baby cries. Though puzzled by the instructions, Sadie accepted the challenge, determined to support Ake in any way she could. With Sadie's assurance, Ake turned his attention to another important task awaiting him. Jiren had gathered the demon army as Ake had ordered, and Ake stood beside him, surveying the assembled troops. Jiren, curious about their purpose, asked what they were about to do. Ake, keeping his intentions hidden, reflected internally on the situation. He had pieced together that the arrow intended to kill him had originated from the enemy army, but Alistair of the White Rose Knights had no knowledge of it. This led him to suspect that someone within his ranks wanted to frame the White Rose Knights for the attack. Reluctantly, Ake concluded that there was a spy among his soldiers. Determined to uncover the traitor, Ake cast a mind-reading spell on the assembled army. As he read the thoughts of his soldiers, he noted Jiren's admiration for him, though it bordered on the obsessive. Ake silently reminded himself that Jiren needed to be more cautious with his thoughts. Methodically, Ake continued to read the minds of each soldier until one demon's thoughts betrayed him. The demon worriedly wondered if they had been discovered. Instantly, Ake teleported next to the anxious soldier and confronted him, accusing him of being a spy. The soldier trembled in fear, his guilt unmistakable. Ake visited Sapphira where she was taking a bath. Sapphira noted that it had been a while since Ake had come to see her, sensing his urgency. Ake, though accustomed to such situations, stated that he would wait outside. Sapphira didn't bother with Ake's presence at her bathroom. She asked if there had been a traitor. Ake, curious about her intuition, confirmed her suspicion. Sapphiro, trusting her instincts, inquired if Ikki knew the traitor's identity. Ikki revealed that it was Jace, the one-eyed goblin, and the second in command of the 7th Corps. Sapphiro, unsurprised, admitted she had suspected Jace due to his high intelligence and veteran status. When Ikki asked for guidance on what to do next, Sapphiro stated that there was only one course of action. They would have to make Jace pay the price for his betrayal. In a city far from the demon army's base, Jace was stunned to hear that Ikki had met with Sapphiro. The news that Ikki had recovered from his injuries added to his shock. Jace questioned his subordinates, confirming that Ikki had indeed been shot through the chest. An additional report came in that their spy and Ikki's undying brigade had gone silent, suggesting they had been discovered. Realizing the gravity of the situation, Jace decided they must attack first to avoid being cornered. However, before he could proceed with his plans, he was informed that Ikki had come to see him alone. Ikki waited on the city road as Jace approached with his army. Jace, surprised by Ikki's presence, noted that Ikki should have announced his visit. Ikki replied that he was merely in the area and confirmed he had come alone. Observing Jace's sizable army, Ikki questioned if Jace intended to start a war. Jace asserted his territorial rights and mocked Ikki for his previous injury, deeming it unacceptable for a brigade commander. Ikki acknowledged the criticism, conceding he should have been more cautious, especially around potential traitors. Realizing that Jace understood the gravity of the situation, Ikki commented on the army's strength, hinting at the futility of Jace's bravado. Jace, confident in his numerical superiority, taunted Ikki, calling him a fool for thinking he could face them alone. Ikki surveyed the scene, noting the presence of Jace's soldiers. Suddenly, a meteor crashed into the city, causing an explosion that set nearby buildings ablaze. Jace and his army were momentarily stunned, their attention diverted to the darkened sky where meteors began to rain down, engulfing the city in flames. Chaos ensued as Jace's forces scattered in panic. Above the city, Sapphiro hovered, casting the devastating meteor shower. She recited ominous verses as the destruction unfolded beneath her. Recognizing Ikki's presence below, she expressed casual confidence in his safety amidst the chaos. Ikki, evading the meteors, found a secure spot, internally lamenting Sapphiro's unchecked destruction. He had previously urged her to limit her attacks to facilitate easier rebuilding, but now the price she was exacting seemed excessive. Sapphiro, undeterred, continued her onslaught, declaring her intent to ensure complete annihilation of their enemies, sparing no one. Jace crouched behind a large stone, trying to catch his breath when Ikki appeared silently behind him. The sudden presence startled him, and he knew his options were dwindling. Jace's subordinates arrived, attempting to protect him, but Ikki's powerful magic quickly scattered them. Amid the chaos, Jace seized the opportunity to flee, instructing his men to buy him time. He cursed Sapphiro, vowing revenge, and used a portal to escape to a nearby forest. Briefly pausing, he looked back at the burning city, convinced that while he might have lost the battle, the war was far from over. As Jace continued his escape, a fireball exploded near him. He turned to find Ikki, who calmly pointed out the futility of running. Ikki revealed that his familiars had been tracking Jace, ensuring his secret path was known. Enraged, Jace destroyed one of the tiny creatures and launched a desperate attack on Ikki, only for his sword to be effortlessly blocked by Ikki's magic shield. Realizing his combat skills were no match, Jace found himself thrown against a tree by Ikki's spell. Tree roots emerged, binding his hands, signaling the end of his resistance. Resigned, Jace acknowledged Ikki's superior abilities and proposed an alliance to overthrow the Demon Lord, arguing that their current leader lacked the ambition and ruthlessness that define true demons. Ikki refused the offer, prompting Jace to make one last attempt at freedom. He managed to free a hand and threw a knife at Ikki, who dodged it easily and recast the binding spell. With Jace securely restrained again, Ikki questioned him about his accomplices. Jace, grinning despite his predicament, remained cryptic, hinting at others involved in his schemes. Jace's triumphant grin quickly turned to a scream of agony. Sapphiro emerged behind Ikki, who gasped at her sudden appearance. Jace's screams intensified as his body broke out in painful rashes. Ikki, alarmed, demanded answers from Sapphiro, who assured him she had not yet acted. It became clear to Ikki that Jace had been poisoned. Despite Ikki's attempts to use an antidote spell, nothing worked. Sapphiro deduced that powerful poison had been administered, likely by Jace's own allies. She tried to persuade Jace to reveal his co-conspirators, pointing out that he had been abandoned by those he trusted. Jace, writhing in pain, began to speak, but his words were cut off as his condition worsened. Ikki felt a pang of pity for the traitor, recognizing the harsh reality of betrayal and abandonment. Sapphiro dismissed Jace's suffering as deserved and left, leaving Ikki to ponder the implications of his lingering humanity. He wondered if this moment of compassion might haunt him in the future. At the Demon Lord's castle, Ikki and Sapphiro walked together toward the Demon Lord. They had been summoned. Ike sensed the gravity of the situation. Aware that the assassination incident had escalated further, they halted their steps as they approached the Demon Lord. The Demon Lord turned to Sapphiro, asking if she knew why she had been summoned. Sapphiro confirmed, revealing that the mastermind behind the recent betrayal was Bastio, the head of the Third Corps. She explained that Bastio had recruited her vice commander and planned to eliminate not only her and Ike, but also the Demon Lord herself. The Demon Lord acknowledged Sapphiro's accusation. Addressing another presence in the room, the Demon Lord's attention shifted to a formidable figure standing before them. This warrior, clad in full-body armor, with a green blaze emanating from his neck, held his helmet in his hand. The Demon Lord turned to this armored figure, seeking his response to the serious accusations made against him. At Demon Lord Castle, Ike and Sapphiro were summoned by Demon Lord. Sapphiro was bringing accusation that the one behind the assassination attempt was Demon's army, the Third Corps leader, Bastio. Bastio was summoned to the Demon Lord's castle along with Sapphiro and Ike. Holding his helmet, he argued that it was actually Ike and Sapphiro who had killed their own vice commander in an attempt to frame him, accusing them of plotting against him to take control of the Third Corps. Sapphiro, incensed by the accusations, began to radiate a dark aura, her anger barely contained. She seemed ready to strike at any moment, but the Demon Lord intervened, urging her to calm herself. Reluctantly, she complied, though her rage simmered beneath the surface. The Demon Lord addressed the situation with a measured tone, acknowledging the inherent ambition within demons. Power, wealth, glory, and influence were coveted by all, and the pursuit of these desires was what defined them. The Demon Lord saw through Bastio's plot, recognizing the ambition driving his accusations. However, the Demon Lord also held Sapphiro accountable for failing to maintain her men's loyalty. According to the Code of Laws, both Bastio and Sapphiro should be punished, but the ongoing war with the humans necessitated a different approach. Instead of executing the two commanders, the Demon Lord decided a duel between them to resolve the matter. The winner would prove their worth, and the situation would be settled in a manner befitting demons. Ike found himself at Sapphiro's house. Sapphiro had received the details of the duel from the Demon Lord. The duel was to be fought using magical creatures known as puppets. The commanders themselves would not participate in the battle, but would act as the representatives of their teams. Each commander would command 50 puppets, and the goal was to wipe out all of the enemy's puppets. The stakes were high, as the loser would die on the spot. This was the Demon Lord's chosen method to resolve the conflict, testing their skills as commanders rather than their physical prowess. Ike questioned why they chose something so complicated instead of the simple fight. Sapphiro explained that it was the Demon Lord's decision. She believed the Demon Lord wanted to test their skills as commanders, which was unusual for demon behavior. Sapphiro then revealed that they could appoint stand-ins and had chosen Ike without hesitation. Initially, Ike accepted without much thought, but he was shocked when he realized the full implications. He suggested that Sapphiro should fight herself, even the high stakes. However, she believed that sending Ike was their best chance for victory. If the battle had been a simple fight, Sapphiro would have gone herself. However, the duel was a contest to determine who was the better commander, which suited Ike perfectly given his brilliant track record. His talents as a commander exceeded Sapphiro's. She acknowledged this and told Ike that while his skills as a commander surpassed hers, she was still the better course leader. Trusting him completely, Sapphiro entrusted Ike with her life. Ike and Jiren arrived at the designated stadium for the duel. As they surveyed the surroundings, Ike couldn't shake the weight of responsibility Sapphiro had placed on him. Jiren noticed Ike's unease and inquired if something was amiss. Ike brushed it off, remarking on the unconventional nature shared by both the Corps Commander and the Demon Lord. Inside the room filled with puppets, Jiren remarked on their unsettling faces and asked how they would be commanded in battle. Ike explained that each puppet obeyed its commander's orders precisely, with all being equally strong, thereby testing the commander's strategic skills. They also noticed an array of weapons and shields nearby. Jiren commented on their availability, seeing it as a gesture of generosity from the Demon Lord. Meanwhile, Ike's eyes fixated on a shield resting on the shelves, contemplating its potential utility in the imminent duel. In his office, Ike sat amidst a clutter of war strategy books and scripts spread across his desk. Sadie approached him with a cup of tea, offering it quietly. Ike asking Sadie about her thoughts on winning battles. She hesitated, unsure what Ike meaning. Ike posed a hypothetical scenario. If she were fighting. Sadie expressed her preference for peaceful resolutions over conflict. If she were forced to fight, she said she would use a broom, though she doubted it would harm anyone. Ike nodded thoughtfully, acknowledging her point while delving into the strategic advantages of different weapons. He explained how distance and power influence the effectiveness of weaponry, from daggers to bows. Sadie recalled her former master's admiration for crossbows, which Ike acknowledged as potent but not revolutionary enough for their needs. Suddenly animated by an idea, Ake leaned forward, eyes bright with excitement. He unveiled his plan to create guns. It's a weapons far beyond anything Sadie had heard of. Intrigued, she asked about their strength, prompting Ake to passionately describe their ability to strike from hundreds of meters away beyond an opponent's retaliation. Sadie, captivated by Ake's vision, asked if he could truly create such advanced weaponry. With unwavering confidence, Ake cited the 7th Corps commander was a formidable alchemist. He remembers that she once told him that there's nothing she can't do. Sapphira was sunbathing by the pool when Ake approached her. She mentioned there were some things she couldn't do, but appreciated the shade provided by something Ake had made. Ake, however, remembered her usual confidence and belief that she could create anything. Ake described an iron cylinder with gunpowder inside that exploded to propel a bullet, believing in her ability to make it. However, Sapphira was uninterested in his detailed explanation. Instead, she invited Ake to join her in the water. Ake had just finished his bath and was drying himself with a towel as he walked towards a table. He muttered to himself, concerned about the gravity of the situation. If he lost, Sapphira would die. As he stopped near the table, his clothes floated towards him. Without thinking, he took the clothes, gratefully thanking them. He was shocked when the Demon Lord responded to his thanks. Ake was stunned as the Demon Lord appeared before him. Panicking, he kneeled, meeting the Demon Lord without his mask and worried that his secret of being human was exposed. The Demon Lord tossed a large package in front of Ake and commanded him to open it. Ake hesitated at first, but after the Demon Lord raised her voice, he complied obediently. Inside the package were a lot of guns, exactly what Ake had been looking for. The Demon Lord revealed that she knew he was human. Romberg had told her that he had given all his knowledge and magic to Ake, and that Ake was human. The Demon Lord explained her motives for not killing Ake despite knowing his true nature. She needed people who would fight for her to achieve her dreams and her vision of the world she desired. She then demanded Ake's answer. With a determined mind, Ake pledged his loyalty. The Demon Lord then teleported away. Meanwhile, at the castle of the 3rd Corps, Bastio was in conversation with his subordinates. One of them mentioned the rumor that Ake, the commander of the Undying Brigade of the 7th Corps, would be sent to face them. He suggested that perhaps Sapphira was afraid of Bastio. Bastio, contemplating the situation, acknowledged that Sapphira, the 7th Corps commander, must have some plan. He admired the sword he held, noting its craftsmanship. His subordinate explained that the sword was made from the fangs of a black dragon and could cut through anything. Bastio expressed his approval, and his subordinate offered to have enough swords made for the puppets immediately. However, Bastio demanded more, surprising his subordinate. Another subordinate approached, reporting his return. Bastio inquired about the progress, and the subordinate expressed confidence in their victory. Bastio, assured of his own success, reaffirmed his certainty. Ake brought the newly acquired guns to Sapphira, accompanied by Jiren. Sapphira examined the guns, noting their unfamiliar design and feeling confused about the Demon Lord's motives for providing them. She asked if the bullets were to be made out of lead. Using her magic, she created a large ball of lead. Ake explained that the bullets needed to be smaller to fit the gun barrel. Though she didn't like working with such detail, she did it anyway, manipulating the lead with her magic. Ake was a little worried that she didn't fully grasp the gravity of the situation. Suddenly, an explosion rocked the room, destroying the wall near Jiren and leaving a gaping hole. Jiren, shocked, asked what had happened. Sapphira, sensing no magic, inquired if it was Ake's doing. Ake acknowledged that it was. Just then, Fiorentina, Ake's subordinate, appeared through the hole in the wall. She reported that they had successfully created what Ake had requested. Ake praised her for the work and explained that the mixture of charcoal, sulfur, and saltpeter, known as gunpowder, was responsible for the explosion. He then turned to Sapphira and asked for bullets. Sapphira handed him 2 small balls of lead. Ake asked Sapphira to create 500 more, but Sapphira declined Ake's request. She looked at Fiorentina, indicating that Fiorentina should handle it instead. Sapphira didn't like detailed work because it was bad for her skin. Then she left. Ake looked at Fiorentina, apologized, and asked her to make the gunpowder and bullets. Fiorentina agreed and prepared for the task. Jiren wanted to be involved too and proposed to help. Both Ake and Fiorentina refused at the same time. The duel day arrived, and the stadium was packed with demons eager to watch the confrontation. In the center of the stadium, Ake stood before his puppets, which were equipped only with shields for defense. The Demon Lord observed from the podium above. Bastio laughed at Ake's seemingly inadequate preparation, contrasting it with his own fully armored and weaponized puppets. He mocked the absence of Sapphira, assuming she was scheming elsewhere. Confidently, Bastio donned his helmet, activating his puppets. Ake noticed that Bastio's puppets were well armed. It has Damascus steel armor, the strongest material, impenetrable by spear or arrow. Bastio, confident that Ike puppets would never land a blow on his puppets. It was a gift from the Demon Lord. Ike was not quite understand Demon Lord's intentions, as she had supplied both sides with powerful tools, guns for Ike and Damascus armor for Bastio. Ike wondered if this was a test or an attempt to ensure a fair fight. The duel began with both commanders positioned behind their armies of 50 puppets each. Bastio initiated the attack, commanding his archers to fire. Ike ordered his puppets to use their shields, successfully blocking most arrows, but some puppets were struck and falling down upon impact. Seeing success, Bastio ordered his pickmen and swordsmen to charge. The picks easily pierced Ike puppets' shields, and the swordsmen overpowered Ike's defenseless puppets. Bastio taunted Ike, accusing him of relying solely on defense. In response, Ike commanded his rear-line puppets equipped with guns to fire. The bullets struck Bastio's puppets with precision. Bastio was bewildered, as he had never encountered such weapons. Ike's puppets followed a disciplined shooting formation, alternating between firing and reloading. This continuous barrage decimated Bastio's forces, rendering them unable to retaliate. Ike glanced at the Demon Lord, who watched attentively. Her expression indicated approval. Eventually, all of Bastio's puppets were destroyed. Bastio didn't believe his puppets was beaten. The Demon Lord teleported to the stadium floor, declaring the battle over. She offered Bastio a choice: an honorable death by his own hand or death at her hands, as dark energies surrounded her. Bastio, however, had a different plan. An archer from the audience fired an arrow at the Demon Lord, which she caught effortlessly. Demon Lord was unaware the arrow was rigged with an explosive, which detonated upon impact, enveloping her in a massive explosion. Chaos erupted as more explosions occurred among the spectators. A skeleton army surged forward, forming a protective circle around Bastio. Bastio laughed, proclaiming himself the new Demon Lord. Long ago, Rombert found himself in a cave, confronted by a pack of wolves blocking his path. As the wolves moved toward him, ready to attack, Rombert quickly cast a spell and struck his staff on the cave floor. Sharp spikes of earth emerged, piercing the wolves and clearing his way. Rombert continued deeper into the cave, where he discovered the remains of a person, their belongings torn and scattered. Among the remains, he found a sleeping baby concealed within the tattered supplies. In the current time, Bastio's puppets have been defeated by Ike's puppets, falling to the stadium ground. Bastio couldn't believe that his puppets, even with superior armor and weaponry, had been bested. The Demon Lord descended and declared the duel over. She gave Bastio two stark choices: to kill himself and die an honorable death, or to be killed by her. Bastio knew he couldn't escape. He had already planned to overthrow the Demon Lord. In desperation, his archers shot an arrow at her. Although she easily dodged and caught the arrow, it was rigged with an explosive that detonated, shaking the ground beneath her. Chaos erupted in the stadium as a series of explosions went off in the audience section. Bastio's skeleton army rushed in, forming a protective formation around him and attacking the nearby demon army. Boldly, Bastio declared himself the new Demon Lord. The stadium became a battleground as Bastio's army clashed with the demon army. Bastio's skeleton warriors, well prepared with superior armor and weaponry, began to overwhelm the unprepared demon army. With his sword unsheathed, Bastio commanded his army to kill all who resisted and declared that the world now belonged to him. Ike stood on the stadium ground observing the chaos. He noticed that the demon army was struggling to contain Bastio's skeleton soldiers. The demon army was in disarray, lacking coordination. Some soldiers were fleeing, while others tried to fight back, but Bastio's forces easily crushed any resistance. Bastio, confident in his impending victory, looked at Ike and pointed out the dire situation for the Demon Lord's army. He suggested that it was not too late for Ike to join him, offering him command of the 7th Corps. Ike remained silent, observing as the demon army was systematically defeated, its soldiers falling one by one. He acknowledged that Bastio's offer was tempting, but firmly rejected it, making it clear that he would never accept Bastio as the new Demon Lord. Preparing for battle, Ike took his stance, his staff glowing with a magical aura. Bastio laughed at Ike's refusal, mocking him for what he saw as foolishness. He warned Ike that this decision would lead to his end. As Bastio's skeleton army moved in, surrounding Ike, Ike stood alone, ready to face the approaching threat. Bastio commanded his army to attack. The skeleton warriors rushed toward Ike. However, Ike quickly cast a spell, unleashing a piercing wind from his staff that pushed back the approaching soldiers. Ike conjured multiple magic circles around him, summoning shards of ice that shot out, striking the skeleton soldiers. One soldier managed to throw an explosive device toward Ike, but it detonated harmlessly near him. As another skeleton soldier closed in, swinging its sword, Ike conjured a magical shield to block the attack, shattering the assailant. Despite his efforts, the sheer number of enemies left him surrounded. Seeing the situation, Ike took to the air, flying out of the encirclement. Bastio's archers tried to shoot him down, but none hit. Ike then landed in the audience section, casting a spell that unleashed a barrage of piercing lightning upon the skeleton army. Bastio watched in disbelief as his forces were decimated by the lightning. In a bold move, Ike flew directly toward Bastio, grasping his helmet with one hand. A powerful explosion erupted from Ike's palm, obliterating Bastio entirely. Despite being obliterated, Bastio and his undead army are reanimated, their bodies fully restored. Bastio stood before Ike, his laughter echoing through the stadium. He reminded Ike that this battle was far from over, as the soldiers he had destroyed one by one began to rise again, ready to strike. Bastio retrieved his helmet from the ground and put it back on, declaring that he and his army were part of the Undine Brigade, with himself as a Dullahan, an undead warrior. This meant they could not be defeated by conventional means. As Bastio's army charged toward Ike, they hurled multiple explosives at him. Ike found himself surrounded by explosions but quickly cast a spell, freezing the advancing skeletons in place. Seizing the opportunity, Ike moved forward, using his staff to destroy the frozen skeleton soldiers one by one. However, the sheer number of enemies proved overwhelming as more skeletons continued to rush toward him. Bastio taunted Ike, pointing out the futility of fighting an infinite army with finite magic. He lamented that Ike's abilities could have been useful if he had chosen to join Bastio. As a marksman from Bastio's ranks fired an explosive arrow at Ike, it detonated near him. Though Ike managed to create a magical shield to block the explosion, the shield was partially damaged. As the battle raged on, Bastio observed Ike, marveling at his resilience and acknowledging the reputation that had made Ike the leader of the Undine Brigade. However, Bastio believed that Ike's lone struggle would ultimately prove futile and declared that it was time to bring the conflict to an end. Ike realized that his efforts were draining his magical reserves without achieving lasting results. He reflected on the nature of undead, recognizing that darkness magic, often effective against living beings, had little impact on these walking corpses. As he pondered, a memory surfaced, offering a potential solution. Noticing Ike's silence, Bastio questioned whether he had given up. He then ordered his skeleton army to attack once more, determined to show no mercy. However, as the undead soldiers advanced, a radiant light suddenly emanated from Ike's hand. This light was unlike any magic Bastio had seen before. It enveloped the approaching skeletons and reduced them to nothing, leaving no remains to reanimate. Bastio was stunned by the display of power, never having witnessed a demon wield such a force. As he watched in disbelief, the ranks of his skeleton army began to dissolve, one by one, under the influence of Ike's newfound magic. Bastio struggled to comprehend the situation. Reinforcements arrived as Saphira appeared at the stadium, leading the 7th Corps of the demon army. The female demon soldiers swiftly moved into the fray, efficiently taking down Bastio's skeleton army. Fiorentina wielded her spear with deadly precision, dismantling numerous skeletal soldiers, while Gyron, in a surprising display, used a frying pan as his weapon of choice. Lilith employed her unique charm, seemingly out of place on the battlefield, yet inexplicably effective against the undead foes. As they joined the fight, Lilith called out to Ike, expressing her support. Sapphiro approached Ike, informing that they had successfully cleared the enemies outside the stadium. Bastio was enraged, seeing Sapphiro and the 7th Corps enter the scene. Bastio's army was annihilated at instant. The demon lord, unscathed by the earlier explosion, appeared seated in the audience section, calmly observing the chaos unfolding below. Bastio, shocked to see the demon lord unharmed, turned to face her. She acknowledged him, reminding him that his true opponent was Ike. Offering Bastio one final chance, the demon lord descended to the stadium floor, proposing a duel between Bastio and Ike. She promised that if Bastio emerged victorious, she would spare his life. The air was tense after the demon lord offered Bastio another chance, challenging him to a duel with Ike. Bastio, brimming with confidence, leaped down to the stadium ground, declaring his intention to annihilate Ike. As the two opponents rushed towards each other, Bastio swung his sword with fierce intensity, while Ike quickly created a magic circle to block the attack. Bastio taunted Ike, accusing him of overconfidence, and swung his sword again with even greater force. Though Ike managed to block the attack, his magic circle was partially damaged, showing signs of strain. Bastio pressed his advantage, repeatedly slashing at Ike's defenses, asserting his supposed superiority and taunting Ike further, urging him to blame the demon lord for his fate and to beg for mercy. In a final move, Bastio cast a spell, sending purple lightning from his hand toward Ike. In response, Ike summoned a golden lightning, which met Bastio's magic in midair. The clash of energies was intense, but Ik's golden lightning proved stronger. As it overwhelmed Bastio's spell, the golden light consumed Bastio's hand. Sapphiro, observing the battle, was shocked by Ik's display of magic. He recognized it as white magic, a type of magic typically wielded by humans, not demons like them. His thoughts raced as he wondered when Ik had learned such magic or how long he had been able to use it. His concern grew as he noted that the Demon Lord seemed unsurprised by Ik's abilities. A flashback revealed a moment from Ik's childhood. He was kneeling, intently gazing at a wilted flower, lost in thought. Romberg approached him, curious about what Ik was doing. Ik, hesitant, responded dismissively. Romberg, not pressing further, reminded Ik that it was time for their magical studies. As they moved to their studies, Ik eagerly read from a book of magic, practicing diligently. Soon, he successfully conjured a purple magic ball, a sign of his growing abilities, which filled him with excitement. Later, as they stepped outside, Ik asked Romberg if there was a spell that could bring a wilted flower back to life. Romberg explained that such a spell would be white magic, which was considered unusual for demons. He emphasized that white magic draws its power from a compassionate and pure heart, something that is rare among demons. Romberg acknowledged that Ik possessed a human heart, which made him capable of using white magic, but he also warned Ik about the dangers of revealing this ability to others, especially since white magic could be seen as a threat to those with demonic power. Understanding the gravity of Romberg's advice, Ik agreed to keep his abilities hidden. Returning to the duel between Bastio and Ik, Bastio was shocked to find that his hand had not reanimated after being consumed by Ik's magic. Ik confronted him, criticizing Bastio's ambition to become the Demon Lord and condemned his willingness to sacrifice his own soldiers, even though they were undead, and to betray his comrades and master for personal gain. Ik argued that such behavior, though perhaps expected of a demon, was unforgivable because it led to a world where rulers oppressed their people. Bastio questioned Ik's resolve and ability to stop him. In response, Ik declared that Bastio's end was near. Enraged, Bastio prepared to launch a powerful magical attack, his right hand surrounded by a menacing purple aura. In a decisive moment, Ik's left hand glowed brightly as he apologized to his grandfather for what he was about to do. With swift movements, Ik passed by Bastio, leaving Bastio entirely consumed by the light, leaving only his helmet and armor scattered on the ground. Sapphiro approached Ik, acknowledging the use of a powerful spell that Ik had learned from Romberg. Ik, reflecting on the situation, realized that Sapphiro had anticipated this outcome from the beginning and had prepared to support him rather than accept the duel himself. Sapphiro, however, downplayed any concerns, suggesting that there was no issue since they had won. The Demon Lord then joined the conversation, indicating that there was indeed a problem. With Bastio's rebellion having been quashed, there was now a leadership void in the third corps of the demon army. The Demon Lord tasked Ik with taking responsibility by assuming command of the third corps. Ik was taken aback by this sudden responsibility, but before he could respond, the Demon Lord teleported away. As the situation settled, Jiren and Lilith rushed toward Ik. Jiren embraced Ik gratefully, expressing immense relief and happiness that he was safe. Lilith, feeling jealous, protested Jiren's affectionate display, asserting her own claim to Ik's attention and teasing Jiren in a playful manner. At the Demon Lord's castle, Ik and Sapphiro were meet with the Demon Lord. Sapphiro, asserting his authority, insisted that as Ik's commander, he had the right to decide Ik's assignment. The Demon Lord responded calmly, noting that since Sapphiro served under her, so did Ik, thus making him subject to her orders as well. Despite Sapphiro's protest that Ik was his subordinate, the Demon Lord maintained her stance and expressed a willingness to hear Ik's decision. The conversation turned to Ik, who was asked if he had made his choice regarding the command of the Third Corps. Ik confirmed that he had. Ik informed on the progress made in their new town, noting that the people were finally starting to adjust to their new surroundings. Initially, his men had been uncertain about living alongside humans, but over time, Hoofgroots had begun to adapt to each other. Ik then spoke of a conversation he had previously had with Sapphiro when he first came to serve under her. His goal had always been to create a world where humans and demons could coexist peacefully. As he spoke, Ik removed his mask, revealing his true form as a human. He apologized to the Demon Lord, acknowledging that he still had much to learn from Sapphiro. In return for being allowed to continue his work, Ik promised to make Avalias the first town where humans and demons would live together in harmony. The Demon Lord, taking in Ik's words and transformation, simply responded with understanding. As Ik and Sapphiro left the Demon Lord's castle, Sapphiro was visibly agitated, floating beside Ik rather than walking. She questioned him urgently, unable to comprehend why he had revealed his true human nature to the Demon Lord. Ik, maintaining his composure, asked Sapphiro to lower her voice, concerned that others might overhear their conversation. Sapphiro, still puzzled, couldn't understand why the Demon Lord hadn't been surprised by the revelation and why Ike remained so calm about the situation. Continuing from the last episode, Sapphiro and Ike had a conversation with the Demon Lord. After Bastio's defeat, the Demon Lord lost her third Corps commander. She demanded that Ike take responsibility by offering him the position of commander of the Third Corps. However, Ike politely declined the offer. He explained that he had his own reason for refusing. He envisions a world where humans and demons can coexist peacefully. As Ike spoke, he removed his mask, revealing that he was actually a human. Sapphiro was shocked by Ike's action as he revealed his true identity in front of the highest authority of the demons, the Demon Lord. Initially, Sapphiro was worried about the Demon Lord's reaction, but she noticed that the Demon Lord was not surprised by Ike's revelation. This made her realize that there was something Ike hadn't told her. In Avalia's city, Ike stood on a hill overlooking the town. He was deep in thought, surveying the city below. Sadie, his maid, approached him. She had noticed that Ike had been spending little time in his office since the duel ended and asked if something was bothering him. Ike picked up some soil and showed it to Sadie. He explained his plan to improve the city using the Norfolk system, an agricultural method that allows for the continuous growth of different crops without letting the fields rest. He believed that with the soil and climate in Avalius, they could implement this system effectively. Sadie found it a bit difficult to understand Ike's explanation, so he used an analogy saying that if the system worked, she could eat all the turnips she wanted. This helped Sadie understand in her own way. Ike then told her that they would be busy soon, busy creating a town where humans and demons could live together in harmony. Indeed, Avalias was the only place where demons and humans could work together with happy smiles. They were working together to rebuild the city of Avalias. Meanwhile, the Alliance of Kings was on the move. The human kingdoms had united to fight against the demon army. At an outpost, the demon army was defeated by the forces of the Alliance of Kings. While Ike was working in his office, Sadie served him tea. She mentioned hearing about his promotion to vice commander and congratulated him. Ike acknowledged the promotion, noting that there had been an opening for the position. In a playful tone, Sadie said she would start calling him by his new title, vice commander. Suddenly, Jiram, a demon pig, appeared, rushed and anxious to report something. As he caught his breath, he addressed Ike by his name. Sadie reminded him to use Ike's new title, Vice Commander. Jiren apologized and bluntly offered to accept any punishment. Then Jiren got sidetracked, talking about the rumor that Ike had turned down the Demon Lord's offer to become a Corps Commander, a position Jiren could hardly imagine rejecting. Seeing Jiren's distraction, Ike sighed and reminded him of the important news he was supposed to deliver. Jiren gasped, momentarily forgetting the reason for his urgent visit. Ike quickly understood the situation. It was about the Alliance of Kings. Jiren confirmed that the Alliance had finally begun taking action with significant events unfolding the previous night. The Second Corps, known for their bloodthirsty nature and skill in battle, had been defeated while trying to capture Alesta. This unexpected loss indicated that the formation of the Alliance was already having an impact. Sadie, not fully understanding, sought clarification. Ike explained that the Alliance of Kings was an ancient treaty among human nations, established when the Demon Lord's army became too powerful for any single nation to handle alone. This alliance had been invoked 3 times in the past, each time leading to the defeat of the Demon Lord's forces. Jiren expressed concern about their safety in Avalias. Ike pointed to a map on the table and explained that Avalias was likely the Alliance's next target. He noted that the demon army had taken Arsenum, a critical base, and if the Alliance wanted to reclaim it, they would first need to strike Avalias. Ike explained that while demons were individually more powerful, they would struggle against the Alliance's superior numbers and coordination. If Avalias fell, the Alliance's forces would concentrate on Arsenum, and a focused attack could lead to its loss. This would force the Demon Lord's army to retreat to Doberberg, where the Demon Lord's castle was located, putting them in a dire situation. Jiren was alarmed by the gravity of the situation. Ike, deep in thought, realized that his dream of creating a town where humans and demons could coexist was also at risk. He stated that there was only one way to overcome the Alliance's overwhelming numbers, leaving Jiren wondering about this solution. Ike, Sapphiro, and Fiorentina met to discuss the new gun they had created. Fiorentina demonstrated the firearm by firing it at a steel plate armor dummy. The bullet pierced through the armor, but the gun broke apart after a single shot. Fiorentina explained that constructing firearms with alchemy proved impossible because the guns would break after one shot. She noted that the precision achievable with alchemy limited the gun's durability and penetrating power. Sapphiro, slightly skeptical of Ike's approach to defending Avalias, questioned the need for such weapons, suggesting that they could rely on magic instead. Ike was concerned about the destructive impact of using magic for mass destruction. He highlighted the difficulty of rebuilding afterward. He argued that they needed weapons that anyone could use if they were to fight the Alliance. Fiorentina mentioned the challenge of mass-producing the guns, proposing that they could be made one by one, especially the parts made of metal and wood. Sapphiro questioned how they would create such small and intricate metal parts. Fiorentina suggested enlisting the help of a race skilled in metalwork, hinting at the dwarves. However, Sapphiro pointed out that the dwarves had lost their battle with the humans and were now a scattered people, making it difficult to gather enough of them for mass production. The conversation paused as they pondered how to bring the dwarves together. Ake mentioned the Dwarf King, who was being held captive in the Ismuth Kingdom. The scene shifted to the Dwarf King being held in a prison. He vividly remembered how he was defeated by the human army and what happened afterward. The humans had burned down his kingdom, along with its residents, and the human army commander had captured him alive. The commander had berated the Dwarf King, insisting that the situation could have been avoided if the dwarves had complied with their demands. The Dwarf King had fiercely resisted, refusing to let humans use their technology for warfare. The commander, attempting to assert control, made it clear that the dwarves had no choice, especially after taking the Dwarf King's son, Batson, as a hostage. Faced with this ultimatum, the Dwarf King was powerless to protect his son. The commander issued a final warning. The dwarves must use their skills for Ismuth or face dire consequences. In the end, the dwarves were expelled from their homeland, their kingdom reduced to ashes. Now they were scattered and wandering without a place to call their own. As the Dwarf King reflected on his past, his son Batson, and the fate of his kingdom, he noticed the guards behaving strangely. They were lying in their positions, seemingly drunk on daydreams. Suddenly, Lilith, one of Ike's subordinates, appeared and unlocked the prison door. She urged the Dwarf King to leave with her. Confused and wary, the Dwarf King questioned why a demon would want to help him. Lilith, impatient with his hesitation, cast a spell to manipulate his mind. The Dwarf King, overwhelmed by the spell, lost himself in a dreamlike state and collapsed. Jiren then appeared, wearing oddly cute armor. He noticed the Dwarf King's condition and asked Lilith what she had done. Lilith admitted she had grown tired of the Dwarf King's questions and suggested they needed to get him out of there. Jiren reminded her of the Dwarf King's importance and picked him up, noting the king's odd laughter as he carried him away. As they walked down the prison alley, Jiren carried the unconscious Dwarf King on his shoulder. The corridor was empty, and Lilith, finding the lack of guards boring, commented on it. Jiren reminded her that they were supposed to avoid being seen, urging her to keep moving. Lilith leaned in close to Jiren, sniffing his armor, and teased him about his smell, which she described as ugly. Jiren, slightly flustered, warned her to stop. Their conversation was interrupted when guards appeared, shouting an alarm at the sight of demons. Jiren blamed Lilith for getting them discovered, while Lilith casually acknowledged the situation. As the guards rushed toward them, Lilith calmly flew at them, absorbing their life energy and causing them to collapse. Jiren reminded Lilith that the vice commander had instructed them to avoid fights if possible. Lilith, feigning innocence, playfully teased him, but Jiren was concerned about the repercussions, especially regarding his role as a strategist. Just as he tried to recover from the situation, more guards arrived, shouting for the monsters to stop. Jiren reflexively swung his arm, sending a guard flying with unintended force. Lilith continued to tease Jiren, threatening to tell Ike about his actions. Jiren pleaded with her not to, worried about his position. Lilith, enjoying the banter, continued to tease him, pointing out his habit of making pig-like noises, which Jiren vehemently denied, unaware of the habit himself. As Lilith and Jiren emerged from the prison's underground levels, they were surrounded by the human army. Jiren, surprised, made a startled oink. Lilith teased him, telling him to stop. The guards, shocked by the presence of demons, shouted in confusion. Jiren urged Lilith to act quickly. Lilith, reluctantly agreeing, flew up and used a spell to absorb the life energy from the nearby guards. The guards collapsed, overwhelmed by the spell. Ike watched from a distance as Lilith and Jiren made their way, closely followed by many human soldiers. Jiren, carrying the Dwarf King, ran with Lilith flying beside him. Jiren was surprised by the large number of soldiers who should have been with the Alliance. Lilith, having absorbed a lot of life energy, was now full and unable to absorb more. Suddenly, huge stone slabs appeared and blocked the soldiers' path. Jiren was stunned by this. Ike approached them, praising their efforts. Lilith, pleased to see Ike, expressed her joy, but Ike ignored her playful comments and asked if there had been any problems. Jiren assured him everything was fine and that they had the Dwarf King. Ike noticed that Jiren was handling the Dwarf King carelessly. Jiren, trying to be more gentle, ended up awkwardly tossing and spinning the Dwarf King. Ike watched with a hint of sweat on his face. Ike managed to bring the Dwarf King, Gunther, to Avalius. Gunther woke up in a bed, confused and wary. Ike presented a gun to Gunther. He asked if Gunther could make another one. Gunther examined the gun carefully. Although it looked simple, he found it quite complex. He agreed to make it but was adamant that he would not work for demons. He refused to help, saying he would rather die than be a slave. Ake understood Gunther's feelings. He explained that Gunther's help was crucial for his vision of peace between humans and demons. Ake then invited Gunther to follow him for further explanation. Ake showed Gunther around Ivalia's city. The city thrived with humans and demons living together in harmony. Gunther was curious and confused about the city. He questioned why he should help, given the past betrayal by humans who had destroyed his kingdom and forced his people into exile. Ake explained that he wanted peace between humans and demons and asked for Gunther's help. He proposed that if Gunther helped mass-produce firearms, he would ask the demon lord to rebuild the dwarf kingdom. Gunther was skeptical and angered. He felt rebuilding a nation was impossible without its people whom he had lost. Ake urged him to see for himself if it was a joke. Ake took Gunther to a place where dwarves were working together. Among them was Gunther's son, Batson. When Gunther arrived, there was a joyful reunion. Dwarves gathered around their king, celebrating his return. Gunther was amazed at how the dwarves had come together. Batson explained that demons had brought them here, provided food, and offered them a place to live. Gunther noticed Batson looking at Ake with gratitude, and Batson spoke of how Ake had saved the king. Ake confirmed this, and Gunther began to understand the situation. Batson rallied everyone, encouraging them to show their skills for the king. The dwarves cheered in agreement. Ake asked Gunther once more if he would help with his ambition. Gunther agreed and extended his hand. As Gunther and Ake shook hands, Gunther noticed Ake's hands were surprisingly warm, more like a human's than a demon's. Sadie was mopping the floor when Ake arrived at his office. As Ake approached, Sadie greeted him and offered to prepare tea. Ake took off his mask and suggested Sadie get some rest. However, Sadie preferred to stay busy to keep her mind occupied. Ake's office had many books on the shelves, and he suggested Sadie read them in her free time. She admitted she enjoyed looking at books but couldn't read them. Ake offered to teach her when he had free time, which made Sadie very excited. Suddenly, Lilith burst into the room, announcing she had gathered all the dwarves scattered across Arsenum. Ake quickly put on his mask to hide his human features and expressed his approval. Lilith, feeling jealous of Sadie's proximity to Ake, accused her of trying to seduce him. Sadie responded with a sly smile, playfully defending herself as she moved closer to Lilith. Their silent exchange of smiles hinted at their ongoing rivalry. Ake sighed, trying to calm the situation. Just then, Jaren burst in, announcing trouble. Both Sadie and Lilith were annoyed by his interruption and told him to be quiet. Jaren, confused, wondered if he had done something wrong. The alliance of King's army was mobilizing not far from Ivalia's. A soldier reported that the dwarf king had been taken by the demons. The general questioned what the old man could do and dismissed the news. Another soldier arrived with an update. He reported that there were currently 500 enemy forces at Ivalia's, with more expected as brigade commanders joined. The general asked about their own numbers. The soldier reported they had 12 battalions, totaling 12,000 men. The general laughed briefly and decided it was time to move. This is the end of The Strongest Magician in the Demon Lord's Army was a Human Episode 6. Thank you so much for staying on this channel and watching our videos. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe to our channel so we can keep you updated with our latest content. See you in the next video.